Hi, and welcome to Explorer Classroom. My name is Jennifer Bergen, and I am so happy to have you join us today. At National Geographic, we know the power of exploration, wonder, and storytelling can change the world. And this Explorer Classroom YouTube show connects students from all over the world with our National Geographic explorers and short lessons and time for your questions. Today, our explorer is Isla Keesje Davidson. She's a biologist who studies how changes in the ocean impact communication between marine species, including how fish that live in and around coral reefs use acoustic communication. She's traveled to many marine habitats, including French Polynesia, Australia, the Maldives, and she researches how animals like manta rays and clownfish tell each other information. Isla loves to tell others what she's learning in marine science, and she uses photography, videography, and poetry to share her learning. Isla hopes to help people understand, appreciate, and protect the ocean by sharing the stories of the underwater and building friendships between countries above the water. So today she hopes that you are all amazed at the way our fishy friends communicate, similar to humans and different from humans. But before we get into today's lesson, let's welcome our friends joining us from all over the world. We've got registered classes representing places in the US, Canada, and around the globe. So our first shout outs go to Academy of 21st Century Learning, Walnut Hills Elementary, Oakland Elementary, Woodbury Elementary, E-Academy Virtual, Ruby Duncan Elementary, Longfellow, M.K. Lewis, Bolivar, Orlando Science Academy, Cascadia Montessori, Harnett Primary, Old Mill, PYDS Learning Academy, Franklin, Seltzer, Glen Hills, St. Joseph, Eastwood, Muhlenberg, Treasure Coast Elementary School, Waukee Community District School. We are thrilled to have you and many more people on YouTube joining us today. And with that, let's get our Explorer Classroom ready. It's time to turn it over to Isla and share all about how fish use their senses. Take it away, Isla.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with me today. Hi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. So give me a second. And we should say thank you to all of the people that have made it possible for us to be together here today to talk about coral reef fish. So let's give this a go. Can you all see me? Yes, great. Okay, so like Jennifer said, my name is Isla Keesje Davidson, and I am a marine biologist. So what that means is I love going under the sea and looking at all of those underwater animals and understanding what are they doing, how are they living their lives under the ocean. And there are so many amazing creatures under the sea, like this little turtle that's just hidden behind my head there. And we've got sharks and rays and so many coral reef fish. It's really quite an incredible place. So what I was thinking we could do to start, get stretched, we're all sitting down, but how about we imagine that we're swimming underwater? So if everyone wants to get comfortable, get in space and stretch out in front of you and swim. Yeah, pull the water out, just swim under the water. Now, what I really like to do while I'm swimming is I like to take my mask and my snorkel. It really helps when you're underwater. So I'm going to try and put this on, guys, but I'm wearing headphones, so this is going to be a bit of an adventure. Should we try? Okay, so stretch it. Oh, and in. There we go. Look, I've got my mask on, got my mouthpiece. Okay, let's go. Keep swimming. So what we're doing is we're going to swim to the coral reefs. Now, coral reefs, I'm going to take this off again. are really amazing places because there are so many fish. There is a quarter of all the fish that we humans know to live on this planet. They either live on the coral reef or they need the coral reef to survive. So there are so many things happening there. Now, what's really interesting is all of these fish need to live together. And to do that, they need to communicate in a whole lot of different ways. But I'm wondering, have any of you wondered what a coral reef sounds like? So how about we see a raise of hands? Who has wondered what a coral reef sounds like? Yeah, a couple of you are wondering. So this is a recording of a real coral reef. Wait for it. Just loading. And now in there you can hear munches and crunches and whoops and calls, and those are all different kinds of fish and shrimp and everything making sound. Let's see if we can hear some more fish in there. So that is a really busy place. Now, if you think of it, what I think we can try and do is if everyone closes their eyes and just listen, okay? So try to hear what's going on around you. So close your eyes and just for a second, just listen. Now, what can you hear? Maybe you can hear some wind blowing outside. That might be telling you that maybe the weather's not very good. Or maybe you can hear a pet scurrying around or a friend fidgeting around. That's telling you what's happening with your neighbors. And the things that we can hear are little clues to what the world is like around us. And fish do the exact same thing. They listen to the whole coral reef, all of those sounds that we heard, to get clues of what's happening in the world around them. Now, it's really important that they hear, because if you see all these little baby fish above me, they need to hear the reef to find their way home. Imagine if you were a tiny little fish and you had to find your way home, but you could only do that by listening. It'd be pretty hard. Do you guys know what your home sounds like? So it's a really important sense for these fish, because they have to find their way home just from the sound of the reef. So we heard the whole reef together and all of those noises, didn't we? Let's try and focus in on maybe just one fish. So I'd like you all to look at the photos around me, and as soon as you can see a sort of little yellow fish, stick your hand in the air. If you can spot a yellow fish behind me, stick your hand in the air. Oh yeah, some of you can see a little yellow fish. Don't worry if you can't see it. What we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit closer. Okay, see, we're even closer in on the reef now. Can people see a little yellow fish? I can see a little yellow fish. And that little yellow fish is an ambon damselfish. And I can tell you, ambon damselfish, they are noisy fish. They love making lots of different sounds. So what we can try and do is everyone in their own little rooms, what we're going to do is we're going to count to 3, and then we're going to make the sound that we think an ambon damselfish makes, okay? So on the count of 3, everyone got your sound ready? 1, 2, 3, go for it. Make the sound you think an ambon makes. Yeah, those are great, guys. Well done. So this is what an ambon damselfish actually sounds like. Just loading. So that was an ambon damselfish. Did any of you guys get close? I know I definitely did not get close to that sound. The ambon damselfish makes the sound for a reason, doesn't it? Just like we make sounds for a reason. If I burst out laughing, I'm making that sound because I want you to know it's really funny what you just said. Or if I start clapping, I'm making that sound because I want you to know that's really cool. When Ambon damselfish, we recorded them make that sound when they were defending their nest. So here you can see in the top picture up there, the Ambon damselfish, there's a sort of grey cloud behind him in the photo. That's hundreds and hundreds of tiny little eggs. So that Ambon damselfish is defending his nest. And down on the photo below, you can see this tiny baby Ambon damselfish, and you can tell it's a baby because it's got a little spot on its back fin. So what they're doing here is he's probably saying, hey, this is my nest and you better not come messing with my eggs because I'm going to protect them. So it's really important sound that he's using. How about we try a clownfish? So I'm imagining that most of you know about clownfish, or at least know about Nemo. But right now we're not finding Nemo, we're going to try and hear Nemo. Okay, so on the count of 3, we're going to try and make a clownfish sound. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Your best clownfish now. Go. I can see a couple of people dancing as well. That's great. Well done, guys. So this is the sound that a clownfish makes. Just going to let it load. So that was really different from an Ambon damselfish, wasn't it? And we recorded that the clownfish were making this noise when they were trying to escape from a predator. So here you can see that's a big coral trout. And coral trout can sometimes hunt clownfish. So we think the clownfish noise that you just heard was the clownfish saying, hey, quickly, swim into the anemone. We have to hide. There's a predator coming. So also a really important sound to make. This is a little baby clownfish hiding in his anemone because you just heard the sounds of his friends telling him to hide. So we know that these sounds are really important for these fish to communicate. But how are they making these sounds, right? I want to know how a fish makes a sound. Well, in this picture, you can see that this clownfish has tiny, tiny little teeth. And what a clownfish does to make sound is it taps those teeth together really fast. And that's one of the ways in which a clownfish will make sound. It's a pretty cool way. But this way is my favorite way. They have 2 ways of making sound. And here, this big batfish that you can see, this is the Batman of the coral reefs. They and lots of other coral reef fish have what's called a swim bladder. Now, a swim bladder is a bit like what we have our lungs. Only a coral reef fish, when it fills their swim bladder with air, they don't use it to breathe. They fill it with air to go up, and then they let the air out, and they go down. And so the swim bladder is what they use to go up or down in the water. But another thing they do with their swim bladder is they vibrate it. And that's basically the same as having a drum inside your body. So coral reef fish are like drummers at heart. They can drum their swim bladder and make a drumming noise to communicate. So maybe you're making the drumming sound to tell your friend, hey, there's food nearby, that's great. Or maybe you're making a sound because you're really excited and you're going, oh, there's a really big fish coming my way. I need to swim away quickly. So they have these really cool ways of communicating with each other using sound. And they have these different ways of communicating in their group. We've just found out how they make the noises, but how do they hear? So fish in the coral reefs have ears just like we do, but they also have a really cool way of feeling sound. So if I want you all to rub your fingers together like this, and you can feel your fingertips, and you can feel your arm, you can feel your head, you can feel the hair on your head or a cloth on your head. Well, now take those fingers and what you can feel and put them on your throat like this. And then I'd like you to try and hum. So just go, Can you feel the vibration in your fingertips? A fish can also feel that vibration, but they could feel it across their whole body and across the entire reef. So if you imagine you're a fish and you want to tell your friend something, you could hum on your side of the reef, or maybe make your drumming sound, and your friend fish could feel it all the way across the other side of the reef. And that means that they're so sensitive that they can even feel each other's heartbeats. So all these fish that you can see in the photos together here, they can feel their heartbeats together, which is pretty cool. So these are just a few examples of how coral reef fish use sound to communicate to each other. But what's really cool is they don't just use sound. They can smell things, they can see things, and they even use what's called electroreception. Now that to me sounds like a superpower, but they've got all of these different ways that they can communicate together. And it's really important to understand how and why they're communicating, because then we can understand better how they're surviving and thriving in these coral reefs. And to do this, we want to know, what do they smell? What do they see? What do they hear, and why? And to do that, we get cameras and we put cameras down, or we swim down there and we record, or when we want to break, we climb a coconut tree. But we basically like to go down there to understand what is going on in their world. And maybe if you're older and you want to explore what's happening in the coral reef worlds around us, you can come and join too. But we want to understand what they're saying and why, because as the oceans might be changing, we want to learn, what does it mean if the ocean's changing? Does that mean they have to change how they make their noise? Does that mean they have to change how they drum? And what does this mean for their survival? It's a really fascinating thing to look at and to explore. And maybe you'll like to explore it too. So thank you so much for listening. And I really am excited to hear some of your questions.
Well, friends, I want to thank you all for your amazing questions. And I know we haven't gotten to all of them. We're going to wrap up with our final question of the show. But if you'd like to reach out, Isla shared her Twitter and her Instagram handles. You can write to her, and you can also tweet at us on Twitter at NatGeoEducation using the hashtag ExploreClassroom. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. So Isla, for our final question, how can we be like you? How can we observe animals using their senses the way that you do?
Yeah, so I think the best way that we can do that is next time you see an animal, doesn't have to be a fish, it could be a bird in the park on your walk, or it could be your pet dog, any animal, the next animal you see, take a moment, slow down, and just watch it. What is it doing? Or listen to it. Is it making any noises? How is it moving? And you can watch it and think about, how is that animal behaving the way it is, and maybe how is it communicating? Forget that you're a human for a moment and try to imagine what it would be like to be that animal. And the more you start to think about what it's doing, why is it doing that? How would it feel to have those feathers and the wind rustling through those feathers, or to have furry paws? The more you think about that, the more you might start to understand why the animals are doing the things that they're doing.
Well, Isla, thank you so much for your time and expertise today.
Thank you. It was great to see you all.
Well, I bet many of you are interested in more opportunities after today's show. So come check out more Explore Classroom episodes. We've got more coming down the schedule and a lot of free resources at natgeoed.org. And I hope that you join us in many more of our events. Speaking of Explore Classroom, this time next week, we're actually going to take a break. It's a United States holiday called Memorial Day, and so we'll pause Explore Classroom in observance of that day. But we'll be right back here in 2 weeks on June 7th for our season finale of Explore Classroom for 4 to 8-year-olds. We're going to take a summer break too, just like many of you. So join us for one more amazing episode and register your family or your class for a shout out or a chance to be on screen with our Explorer. Go to natgeoed.org/Explore Classroom. And don't worry, it's not the end of Explore Classroom. We're just taking a break And there will be more fabulousness in the fall when all of us are back at school in the United States. So be sure to keep an eye out for our fall schedule. Again, that's natgeoed.org/Explore Classroom. Also, happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We encourage all of you to take some time this May and learn about or celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage. There are so many people who identify this way, and they bring joy and excellence to all of our communities, including our National Geographic Explorer community. So have a great day, everyone. Stay curious, keep exploring. Take Isla's advice. Go outside and listen, observe, maybe even smell, pretend.